Morgan SLV here. Just like to say that it's a great honor to speak with you, Bill. Hopefully I'm transmitting. My question is, what do you see the ultimate ratio between silver to gold, the silver to gold ratio, number one, and number two, after a blow-off or whatever we think may or may not happen with the gold and silver, in a blow-off scenario, what would you suggest, or what would you be looking at to invest next, with your proceeds?
I hope to be riding off in the sunset when that happens. Not to be flip, but that's what I think. It's so hard to say because, the thing that a lot of people now, not you all, but the public thinks right now, not silver so much, but gold thinks so expensive. Remember, I said 3,000 to 5,000 when it was at 436 in 2005. I don't know if it could go much higher than that. And what's happened is it's very hard to judge like other markets. Right now, the sentiment, even now, with gold at this price and silver, there's not a lot of excitement out there. The little stocks are still dead. A lot of the websites they're not flourishing. I know it's one of the reasons I'm excited about doing this because I'm trying to get to a different demographic. I mean, I go to speak at all these shows and it's always the old fart people like myself, and there's not that many young people around, and I met some real sharp ones, and they're as good as they get, but there's not that many, and so my point of bringing that to your question is they're going to come in and get involved, and it's, as I said earlier, it's going to be like the internet thing. So the prices which have been so suppressed are going to do things that we couldn't even imagine. I don't think, just being even just regular objectives, it's liable to go much further than people can conceive because the herd's still coming our way. And the idea is, what I can say is I think you're going to get just an incredible surge. Everyone's going to get excited. It's from some levels, pick a number, depending upon the physical market, default situations, if they occur. Then everyone's going to get involved, and that's when you get your first major correction. And then it'll still be really good, but probably the big move is coming right after that. Once they clean up the newbies out of the market, then you get the thing where it just goes ballistic. So all I know is it's like anything else. When things go in the first stage, it's always a great way to take half your money off the table so you're home free on the trade and then hold on the rest for the really spectacular move down the road. That's how I'm planning to play it, and I hope I get it. I hope I get it right. So far, the upside's been easy. My forte is getting in. I'm not the best guy in the world to talk to when to sell.
Okay, I just got a quick question. How do you see gold and silver being used during an economic collapse? I mean, I don't know if you've thought too much about that, but we talk about it a lot in here. I just kind of wondered, how do you think it would come into play during economic collapse?
Yeah, that's a good question. We talk about it all the time, too, and I discuss it quite a bit. And again, we're talking about my commentary, and I hope that a lot of you will sign up for a 2-week free trial. Like I said, we have a special offer. It's going to be for $99 for 6 months for the people that code in on this thing, and Kirsty will take care of that. But yeah, we get into this all the time. One of the things that was exciting about silver, as I mentioned earlier, which since the game's changed, is that when the markets were falling apart a few weeks ago, and recently, silver has performed, and it's going into a new zone, and especially gold. What it has to happen. Everyone, it's common public knowledge. Helicopter bed. The United States is in rough shape. I mean, again, same stuff you talk about. The U.S. is broke. A lot of the states are broke. The people's balance sheets, individuals, stink. Everyone's nervous and concerned. Commercial real estate could fall off a cliff. There's resets in the different real estate areas that are going to surface. They've just thrown everything at the markets. But getting back what they're going to do, Ben Bernanke in his latest speech in Jackson Hole, he talked about using unconventional methods. That was the operative word, which you didn't hear much from the Muppets on CNBC. But they have no choice. So this is what's coming. And we were talking about it with lunch today with a friend of mine, Nick Ferris, Soma Gold, and that he's the CEO of the company, and talking about the difference between inflation and hyperinflation. And basically, when you get into hyperinflation, you're talking about a lack of confidence, a collapse in the dollar, and everybody just trying to buy things. And we all know, a lot of us believe the dollar is extremely vulnerable. We know what the Fed's doing. It means $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. We can't pay for anything. So the dollar's an accident waiting to happen. And the reason that that's important, in my opinion, is because, yeah, a lot of other countries are in trouble, like we are, but we're probably one of the brokest. But most importantly, the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency in the world. And that's what makes it so different rather than just talking about who's broke or who's better off. When things start to go, everyone's going to want to get out of their dollars because that's when it's oversupplied everywhere. And so I think what's going to happen is that's what you're starting to see. People are going to go to gold and silver because especially the U.S., we've got to print. They've got to do something because things are falling apart. The average Joe in America, I've been writing about this for years, the standard of living is going to go down 35%, in my opinion again. And people are going to be going to gold and to silver because they're just going to pump, and that's the way it's going to be, I think. And I think, people talk about gold going up at a deflation. Inflation's obvious, but there's many cases that which gold is shown to move up in a deflation. And what I think is going to happen is what you're starting to hear a lot more about, is that you can have inflation and deflation at the same time. People can't afford their homes. The stock market could go either way, either up with big inflation or down because interest rates are starting to go way up and the economy falls about further. But the bottom line is we're in the driver's seat now, I think. And again, if you've been involved in gold and to a lesser extent silver, but it's catching up for 10 years, nobody talks about it outside of our kind of groups. It's relative to the price action. I mean, can you imagine the Dow being at 15,000 right now, and people not getting into it much? Websites are blah. The shares are blah for the most part. You've got some big winners, but a lot of the shares, like the one I mentioned, are just way underpriced, way undervalued, and it's all going to change.
Hey, Bill, I want to say thanks for taking the time to speak to us tonight. I got two questions for you. First one, would it be necessarily a bad thing, since silver and gold, more silver than gold actually, but since they're both actually used in industrial uses, would it be a bad thing if the prices rose too rapidly due to its industrial use, and mainly because an industry might stray away from using those metals anymore due to the price inflation? And also, what is your take on adding palladium and platinum to your physical metal holdings?
Good question. Get what I mentioned earlier. It happens especially in the price-savvy countries like India, where you get sticker shock. Price goes up too fast, the buyers just disappear. But what's a little different this time, it can change. One is the shortage situation I mentioned. But the West, with the public's not in it, the West tends to buy strength when it becomes a mania, so to speak. So that can counter some of the other buying. But yes, if it goes up too quickly, too fast, the prices tend to correct. But what can happen is, again, if you have a physical problem, when you have to have it, you have to have it. You've got to pay any price. I actually think I saw this on the close the other day. Silver went up, it's a couple times now, we've seen it go 14, 50 cents right into the closing bell on the COMEX. I mean, it was like it was panic buying, and I wrote about this. I've written about it a couple times. I said, this is just not normal. With other markets not doing anything. So, yeah, you'd like a steady good market, but we haven't to worry about that because we have all these rules, the gold car rules, just a 2% rule, and and they sell out to Plan A at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then Plan B is after the PM fix, and Plan C is in the excess market when was less volume, so they could influence the market. So they've kept the price way below where it would be, and that's the thing here. It's different. See, gold, for example, is half of where it should be. So we have so much catching up to do. Regarding platinum and palladium, I don't follow them that well. I can say this, that gold and platinum used to trade around the same price, and I think platinum's about $300 or $350 more than gold is now. So gold's got a lot of catching up to do there. Now, because they're more industrial than gold and silver, they could get affected more should the economy contract quite a bit.
Yeah, hi there. I'm calling from London. I appreciate your time. Hope I'm transmitting here. I'm I'm just new to the game, so I've got a very basic question. What happened in 1980-70 with the Hunt brothers? Do you see that could happen again if a major buyer moved into the market? Do you foresee that happening? And also, you mentioned about hyperinflation or a deflationary market happening at the same time. If we went through a period of deflation, where do you see the prices of gold and silver going, up or down? Thanks.
Well, the CFTC, which is the one that stopped the hunts last time, is going to have a heck of a time doing anything on the upside of the price with the thousands of letters and complaints and Gata's CFTC commentary about what the shorts were doing, and going over and over again and making it clear to them what's going on, and then the price starts to explode and they go after the longs. I think there'd be some serious trouble. I mean really serious trouble, because they've laid themselves on the line so far that there's been no manipulation on the short side. How can they come in and then do a hunt thing when the markets are finally taking off, when we say they've been suppressed? I mean, people go berserk. And I think with that kind of a scenario, with the track record that we have, I know the kind of work that Ted Butler's done and our camp's done, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time now, they would have a very tough time doing that. What they can do, of course, is declare a force majeure, which means unable to deliver due to circumstances beyond stuff, but that again would be very negative for their king. Supposedly, silver's been trading like a free market. They keep saying so. So how can they all of a sudden say, well, people can't deliver? You mean, because we've been saying that there's funny games being played, so anything they do that affects an advance, they're going to have some big trouble, maybe some big legal trouble. I'm talking about the CFTC people themselves. Remember, this Gata stuff that we did at the hearing, it's all public record stuff. And we're right in front of them. They can't say that they didn't know. So it's pretty, that's why, we're pretty excited about it from that standpoint. Regarding the deflation thing, you just don't know. I mean, we saw what J.P. Morgan did on the last crisis. A lot of that was just, going after the speculators, which hopefully we'll hear about in the months and years ahead, and what was done and why, and something is done about it. But I can say this, based on what I think and what we talked about earlier, that they got to print.
May I just step in here for a moment? Look, I think X Factor was going to be the last to submit a question. Let's respect the fact that Bill may have other things to do. Maybe these questions can be submitted to the room, which somebody here may be able to answer that. But go ahead, X Factor, you're the last question.